everyone. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. Yesterday, we had a fantastic panel. We were honored to have the guests Professor Robert Kerr, as well as Dr. Jay Smith on. It was a fantastic discussion. And Dr. Jay Smith did tell the audience that I have 5 of the greatest minds in the world on Islam on the panel. So in other words, we're all a great team except for me and JC, which
it wasn't always clear. It wasn't always clear who we were talking about. There's some ambiguity there, I thought.
Well, today
but
we have...
as long as there's more than one, we can all nod sagely. And of course,
well, at least I'm in good company, right? At least JC and I are in good company. So hopefully I wasn't picked just for my looks, right? So, yeah, but we're back with Dr. Robert Kerr and, Professor, Doctor, we'll just take it as it comes, right? If that's okay. With Odon, with Paul, with JC, and of course, Saint Murad, who we were privileged to also have him join us. Today, we're going to be talking about the Furqan. Now, Odon always gives me funny looks because I always ask him, Odon, it's aliens, isn't it? And Odon he doesn't like that. And he has told me it is not aliens. It is never going to be aliens. And then he brings me back to Earth. And apparently, it's all in the documentation. And we're going to be talking about the Furqan. Is it the Quran? Is it the Bible? Is it something else? And also, Saint Murad might share some very interesting information with us as we go. Dr. Kerr, could you please tell us what the topic is today and why it's important?
Yeah.
And,
why it's important is you'll see why, because as we've discussed previously, that a large part of the theological vocabulary of the Quran is borrowed mostly from Aramaic. And that says something about the origins of the Quran, as we briefly touched upon yesterday. We're probably looking at northeastern Syria, the Jazirat Arab, and not the Hijaz, not Mecca and Medina. And also, if it were Mecca and Medina, one would have to explain why there was literacy in Aramaic and how these loanwords entered the Quran. And what you then see is that surprising things happen when you analyze. So if you don't accept the tale that the Quran fell out of the heavens and landed on earth sort of in one fell swoop, more or less, but is a product of a book. And as we've previously discussed, even Quran is Aramaic, Kiriana, and it's a lectionary. That says something. And what has clearly happened is that the Mufassirun, the exegetes, the Quran commentators, much later, we're dealing with at least the 9th century, they no longer understood the linguistic or the historical context of the Quran, probably because many of them were Persian, so Arabic was at best their second language, and they didn't know the Bible. So, and also when you're reading a Semitic language and there's a loan word from another Semitic language, it could be sometimes hard to realize that it's a loan word, and then you try to etymologize it based on Arabic, which is what I think happened here. But we'll see.
Right. Interesting. Saint Murad, you've mentioned similar in the past. I mean, you seem to echo exactly, if I recall correctly, what Dr. Kerr just said. Do you want to maybe add a few words as a native speaker and someone who's done deep research?
Yeah, of course, I want to hear what Professor Kerr will say about Furqan, but from my research is that it's definitely a Syriac word, and it means deliverance. So deliverance as something physical, like a physical road that has been crafted for the sons of Israel to get out of Egypt.
No, we'll get there today. Yeah.
Dr. Kerr, why is this word important? Why Furqan? Or what is the significance of this?
Well, can we discuss that after the presentation?
Sure. Okay.
It might be.
Let me maybe just add this very quickly in case that members of the audience, they are not very familiar with this. So the word Furqan appears a couple of times in the Quran, and the they do these weird things. And in here, this is what most Muslims actually read. So you can see here from Sahih International that the word is Furqan, but they will actually just write Quran instead. So they don't want them to read the word. So we know there is a problem with the word, and looking forward to this exploration with the panel.
The Quran, the Furqan, the Quran. Okay, I see it. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So, yeah, then we'll just move right along. How does this work here? Next page. So it comes as in Surah Al-Furqan 25:1. Blessed is he who has revealed unto his slave the criterion, and then of right and wrong in brackets is not in the text, but translators usually add that he may be a warner to the peoples. Well, we've discussed Nadir in the past a couple of weeks ago, and I showed why it's not a warner, but it's probably a sacrifice. It indicates Christ, or it's a Nazarene, in that case, John the Baptist. But for this verse, most of the classical Quranic commentators interpret Furqan as distinction, i.e., between truth and falsehood, al-haq. But as we said, Nadir doesn't mean a warner. So then we're left with the question, what is a Furqan? When we look at, this didn't really look here good, but I don't know if you can read it, but it's Furqan. It means basically in faraka, to divide, and separation. You can see it on the right, parting, leave-taking, mufaraka, mufarik, and then you have somewhere Furqan on the third column, proof, evidence, the Quran, and important for later, you have somewhere here Farik, which we'll get to, distinguishing, differential, distinctive, separating, distinctive factor, and somewhere it says it's a also a title for Umar ibn al-Khattab. So faraka means to separate, to divide, as in most Semitic languages. Roots that start with P or F and R have to do with division, separating.
I'm going to use my screen because it's a little, yours is very tiny. So if I can just to show the audience this here, a little larger.
Yeah, and Quran, and then upstairs you have Farouk, very above that, very timorous, he who distinguishes truth from falsehood, epithet of the second Caliph Umar. We'll get to that too later. So faraka, if you accept that as Arabic, then it means separation. But as we said, before the Quran came around, a lot happened. So the question is here, is it Arabic? So we can go to the presentation again. Okay, then I have to go to mine. And then there's 6 further attestations in the Quran, in Al-Baqarah 53, and we gave unto Moses the scripture and the criterion of right and wrong, that ye might be led aright. Al-Jalalain says that which distinguishes between truth and falsehood, and between what is permitted and what is forbidden, faraka, to distinguish, so that you be thereby kept from error. So one can see here with the 25:1, the why, and we'll get to that later, the Quran might be seen as the criterion, and here one could see why the Torah could be considered the criterion. This, of course, has roots in the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, and the Lord said unto Moses, come up to me into the mount and be there, and I will give thee tables of stone and a law and commandments which I have written, that thou mayest teach them. And he gave unto Moses, when he had made an end of communing with him upon Mount Sinai, 2 tables of testimony, tables of stone, written with the finger of God, and in Deuteronomy, of course. So we see where it comes from. Still in Al-Baqarah, Surah 2, the month of Ramadan, in which was revealed the Quran, a guidance for mankind, and clear proofs of the guidance and the criterion, again, of right and wrong, etc. Islamic tradition usually interprets this verse as a description of the manner in which the Quran, a complete book that has always existed physically in heaven, the mother book, according to the Quran, al-Kitab, was revealed during the holy month of Ramadan, or the first surah, anyway, or the first verse.
Might I interject just for a moment, please?
Of
Just
course,
to show
go ahead.
something. This is the Brill Encyclopedia of Islam, the gold standard in academia, at least. And it's different to the Ver book because you've got Furqan means one thing. I mean, they have it as one term. Here, Furqan, proof, evidence, the Quran, right? Proof, evidence. But you go to this one, and it says a Quranic term which poses problems of interpretation and is variously translated as discrimination, criterion, but also, as Murad said, deliverance and even salvation, which is a very Christian term.
Well, we're getting there. We're working our way there.
Okay.
We're getting there. We first of all have to look at the text.
Okay.
And then, in fact, the Quran uses the term Quran, which is related to the Syriac term Kiryana, denoting an ecclesiastical lectionary, to refer to specific individual oral revelations, and not to the book that eventually came down as the Quran. We have here then in Al-Imran, he has revealed the truth unto thee. Muhammad is not in the text, but it's added by the translator. The scripture with truth, confirming that which was revealed before it, and he has revealed the Torah and the Gospels aforetime for guidance to mankind, and hath revealed the criterion of right and wrong. Ibn Kathir says, Wa anzala Furqan, and sent down the Furqan. This is the distinction between misguidance, falsehood, and deviation on the one hand, and guidance, truth, and piety on the other. Okay. We also have this in Al-Anfal in 8:29, and ye who believe, if you keep your duty to Allah, he will give you discrimination. And here it's interesting that Pickdal now uses discrimination and not criterion. Between right and wrong, he adds, and will rid you of your evil thoughts and deeds, and Allah will forgive you. Allah is of infinite bounty. What's interesting here with Ibn Kathir and others, but I only gave a selection, that Furqan means a way out. Mujahid added, in this life and hereafter. Another tradition reports that Ibn Abbas is said to have stated that Furqan means salvation, according to another tradition, help. What is interesting is when you look at the traditions attributed to Ibn Abbas, he's usually pretty close to the Bible, not necessarily our Bible, but at least the Targum. Here he sees salvation, as Lloyd just pointed out. Then we have, of course, have the 841. We've discussed this, I think, in the past. And know that whatever you take as spoils of war, etc., etc., if you believe in Allah and that which we revealed unto our slave on the day of discrimination, the day when the two armies met. And Ibn Kathir says, Badr is Yawm al-Furqan. So you see on the right in the yellow Yawm al-Furqan, which is translated as Day of Discrimination. We discussed this in the past, I believed, and this is, of course, has to do with the bathing accident of the Egyptian army during the Exodus, not to the Battle of Badr. We've discussed that. This is, of course, what we find in Isaiah 49:8. Thus saith the Lord, in an acceptable time I have heard thee, and in a day of salvation I have helped thee. On the right in the Hebrew, you have Uvayum Yeshua. So underneath it's transcribed. Of course, Yeshua means salvation in Hebrew, and readers of the New Testament might be familiar with the name. And on the lower left, we have Uv Yauma de Furqana. So here we have Furqan in Syriac, which translates Hebrew Yeshua, salvation, which is a technical term. So the question then remains, what is Yawm al-Furqan? We have this, for example, with the Exodus. And Moses said unto the people, fear ye not, stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will shew to you today. For the Egyptians whom you have seen today, you shall see them no more forever. Ura'u et Yeshuat Adonai, you will see the salvation of the Lord. On the lower left, we have the Jewish Targum Onkelos, Yat Furqana de Adonai, or Hashem, the same word again, Furqana, and on the right again in the Peshitta, in the Syriac, you see the same word used, which is basically Arabic for Khan. So we see the word is well attested in Aramaic, which is long before Arabic becomes a written language anyway, and it's a technical term that translates a very specific Hebrew term Yeshua, I suppose, without which none of the New Testament would make much sense. And we verily gave Moses and Aaron the criterion of right and wrong, is added again, and a light and a reminder for those who keep from evil. Ibn Kathir, this refers to the scripture. Abu Sa'ih said that to the Torah, Tada said the Torah, what it permits and what it prohibits, i.e. a book. You see where the idea comes from, that it's a book, something that distinguishes good from bad. As we have seen in the past here, already seen Surat Anfal 8, O ye who believe, if you keep your duty, he will give you discrimination between right and wrong. And as I said, Ibn Abbas says it means salvation. If we look at a Syriac dictionary, here, Brockleman's Lexicon Syriacum, we see Furqana means salvatio, so redemptio, so salvation or redemption. So as I said, this is a technical term in Aramaic, as we've seen here in Jewish Aramaic and in Christian Aramaic, so the bottom line, respectively. And this is what we find in Hebrew, for example, elsewhere, Psalm 3:8, salvation belongeth unto the Lord, thy blessing is upon thy people, Selah. Oshieni Elohei Hikach, and then you have Furqan in Syriac, and Piruk Yathi Elohei Arum, etc. in the Targum, the Jewish Targum. So the question we can ask ourselves here is, one, with the textual passages, with 253, one could go either which way. Criterion, it could be Arabic, or it could be deliverance. The month of the scripture, deliverance, 2185, could be Criterion or deliverance, 3:4. But certainly with 829 and 841, it's clearly referring to salvation. And we rarely gave Moses and Aaron the criterion of right and wrong, or the salvation, I would say, or redemption. In 2148, I would go there too. With Surah 25:1, he has revealed salvation, I would say. but this is where basically the idea comes from that Furqan is the Quran from the 25. One, in classical Armenian, from the history of Chavond, 8th century, this is the reports the apocryphal letter exchange between Umar II and the Byzantine Empire. Leo III, the Syrian, who is, of course, a native speaker of Arabic. And Leo is mocking the idea that the scripture has to drop physically out of the sky to be divine. And said, your falsehood for having us to say that God sent it down written from heaven, as you say concerning your Furqan. Astwak Czernich Orpes du Vasen Furqanid in Armenian. Although we're not ignorant of the fact that Umar Abu Turab, son Salman the Persian, wrote yours. So the point is here in classical Armenian, we have already Furqan or Furqan meaning Quran.
Can I drop something in here? Just point of interest.
Pleasure.
Yeah, let me share my screen again. Sorry, I was going to set this up quickly. This is the software that I use to index thousands of documents. So this is in the Routledge Encyclopedia of Ancient Mediterranean Religions, and I found two sources amongst my books that also conflict. They also use the word in. It says it also seems to be related to Pukdana or commandment in Syriac. The two sources that they come up with Pukdana. So
yeah, that could work because D and R in Syriac are very similar.
Right, and then there's one other very interesting one. This is the Gnostic Bible. This is the Gnostic texts of mystical wisdom from the ancient and medieval worlds by Willis Barnstone and others. And let's just wait for Furqana to load. Here we go. And here they come to Mandaean. And there seems to be a link to Islam through Mandaean and Mani. But it says Mandaean soteriology focuses that salvation focuses on individual and collective salvation. And in Mandaic, it's Furqana as well.
Well, Mandaic is just a dialect of Aramean.
Okay.
It's just a dialect of Aramean.
Okay.
So that my point was that it's common Aramaic. So just to be clear, the idea is that paraka or parak or faraka in all Semitic languages means to divide, to separate. But of course, salvation implies some type of separation, like in Mark, the white sheep from the black sheep or something. So if everybody gets saved, nobody gets saved. So salvation always implies, or saving always implies some type of sorting process.
In the Islamic, they say right and wrong, but wouldn't there be a second layer of reinterpretation? Because in Islam, there's no such thing as we have in Christianity of right and wrong. They literally have legal and illegal. It's not a moral issue; it's a legal issue. So and what is illegal can be made legal because there are loopholes for everything, literally everything. So,
no, but I would say that in Islam you don't have our idea of conscience. So there's no distinction between natural law and positive law. So the only way you can distinguish between, and this is where Furqan becomes important, is through the Sharia. So natural law or reasoning that the differentiation between what is good and bad you can only do based on what Allah wills. So it's not that in Islam nobody would say the Sharia is good or bad. They would just say it's the will of Allah and it has to be followed to the letter.
And good and bad is not fixed because it depends on Allah's will in that moment. Whatever Allah wills is right, whether it's the opposite of what he did 5 minutes ago.
Well, you need to get at least a message from heaven. So that basically this is the idea why the Quran is considered a criterion. As one says that Yeshua can be viewed as an somewhat as an object, as in Isaiah 61:10, for he hath clothed me with the garments of salvation, the big they, Yesha, which has a long career in rabbinic exegesis, but I won't go into that here. And
may I ask something before we move on, please? About Leo III. So if in the correspondence of Leo III he used the word Furqan or Furqan, and what is your what do you think about that? Do you think that at that point, this book that we now have was referred to as Furqan, and then Quran was another book, or that they just didn't establish the name and the name Quran came in maybe during the Abbasids? Do you have any thoughts?
I think this correspondence is much later. It's certainly apocryphal. It's not the real correspondence. It's been put into the mouths of these figures. What I would say, it does confirm to Islamic tradition, where the Quran is also called the Furqan. So this becomes, in classical and middle Armenian, the word for Quran. It's only in modern Armenian that they have taken over Quran, but my modern Armenian isn't that good, I have to confess. But the point here, the only point I was trying to make is that the idea that the Quran could be considered the Furqan, the Criterion, also entered Armenian, which is not an Islamic language. So they must have somehow borrowed this from Islam. So I don't think there were two books. I doubt that. Is there any other question, or?
No, for me, thank you.
Okay. That what we see also is that Hebrew Ge'ulah, redemption, can also be translated. So we have here Isaiah 63:4, Ushanat Ge'ulai, and the year of my redeemed. On the right we have Furqan, Ami, the redemption of my people, and Ushnat Shanta de Furqan in Syriac, so it's also used there, and which renders the Greek lutrosos, and as you see it in the Latin, redemption. So, and Ge'ulah is also a technical term for salvation in Hebrew. Of course, the point is that this can be borrowed into other Semitic languages besides Arabic. So if you look at Revelation 7:10, and cried out with a loud voice, saying, salvation to our God, which sitteth upon the throne and unto the Lamb, e soteria to teo. This is Furqana, you see in the bottom right, la alahan in Syriac, Furqana, and you have this in the bottom left in Ethiopic, which is also a Semitic language. But their classical Ethiopic, like Arabic, borrowed a lot of Arabic theological terms because the missionaries were Aramaic speaking, were Syrians, so that's who spoke Syriac. So you also see the term, it's not just borrowed into Arabic, but also into classical Ethiopic. And we even find it in Sabaic. The text is officially dated to Middle Sabaic. I'm not sure about it, but I'm not going to argue the case here. And there you see in line 5, with Furqan, Talab, and Talab, who's a god, saved and delivered. So it was also borrowed into Sabaic in Yemen by the seaway, by trade routes. So having arrived here, I would say it's clear that Furqan is a technical term that found its way into the Quran from Aramaic, where the semantics evolved. It's not just separation, discernment, but it's what divine separation or discernment, i.e., who gets saved and who doesn't. And it's a technical term way before the Quran came around and Arabic was written. So it's clearly a loan word, and the idea of Furqan, the Quran as Criterion, is of course of secondary origin. What is more interesting is when you read Arabic sources here, such as Pseudo-Waqidi, Futuh Hasham, the converted patriarch of the city of Halab. Is your prophet the one known from the gospel, whose coming was clearly foretold by Christ? It's probably a reference to the Parakletos in John 14, who is the Faruq, who distinguishes between truth and falsehood. Of course, this is apocryphal as well, Pseudo-Waqidi, so we're into the 10th century. And of course, the patriarch is converted and he doesn't have a name, and this is how it works. But here, Muhammad is called Faruq. This is what we saw in the beginning with Vere's dictionary, that Faruq was an epithet of Umar ibn al-Khattab, the second caliph, but it's also a title of Muhammad, apparently. When we look at Tafsir Furat, for the 10th century, Furat al-Kufi attributes to Ali, I am the Faruq who distinguishes between truth and falsehood, and I am the one who leads my followers to paradise and my enemies to hell. So also Ali can be called the Faruq, and it's the guy who decides who goes up or who goes down. Of course, Umar ibn al-Khattab is the most famous Faruq. The problem is the Islamic tradition can't decide exactly when it was bestowed on him. So there are traditions that it was bestowed on him by Muhammad when he converted to Islam. Allah, or the angel Jibril, bestowed it upon him in connection with the revelation of Surah 460, or it was the Al-Kitab who referred to him as such, apparently the oldest traditions, and there are some traditions that he got it at the Battle of Badr, but what he exactly did at the Battle of Badr could earn the title is never clear. So from the same root, we have something called Faruq, which is not in the Quran, but only in the Islamic tradition. In the Islamic tradition, the term is generally regarded as an Arabic derivation of the root faraka, to separate, to distinguish, to decide, i.e., as a person who distinguishes between two separate entities. For example, Ibn Durayd asserts that the title was bestowed upon Umar because he revealed Sahara Islam in Mecca and thereby made clear the distinction between faith and unbelief. Faruq is thus interpreted here as a rarely used intensifying adjective derived from the word faraka. But the formation with the long A and the long U is very unusual in Arabic. I don't know, Saint Murad can maybe confirm this for us.
Yeah, in Arabic, the noun would be Fariq, not Faruq.
Yes, exactly. And this is what Ibn Durayd notes. I've just noted Ibn Durayd here, the Kitab al-Ishtiqaq. He said, while he was called Faruq, he was also called Fariq, which is the active participle of the first conjugation, which is more in line with grammatical expectations. So what we say, okay, good, sure, the bloke or a good friend of Muhammad is called Faruq, but actually we can also call him Fariq because that is Arabic, that makes sense. Why not? When you look at the nominal deviations in Semitic languages, you have Brockelmann's famous 2-volume Vergleichende Grammatik der Semitischen Sprachen, a comparative grammar of the Semitic languages. And This is one of the reasons why there's an old joke that German is the most important Semitic language. In Arabic, this form only occurs in a few genuinely indigenous words such as athur, trap, and rahul. Oh, good, I missed the macrons there, but camel saddle. The form is most common in Syriac, where it can be formed as the nominative adjunctive for every participle of the main stem. Brockelman again, many of these words have been borrowed into Arabic, such as naqus from naqosa, church bell clapper, saur from saora, inspector, and so on. And with Duval, so what he basically says, it's very common in as nouns of agent in Syriac, and you see that with, he gives some examples. So the point is that the form here, Farouk, that we have here, it's not Arabic. Even the Arabs realized it wasn't Arabic, which is why they tried to make Tariq out of it. It is only.
Can I just add something?
Yeah, go ahead.
If we wanna like put it in Arabic as Farouk, we have to remove the alif. So in Arabic you could say Farouk, but Fehre, waw, qaf right away. But here we have Farouk, so this is not Arabic.
It would have a hamza, which would be impossible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would go against not just the Arabic morphophonology, but also against Arabic orthography.
Yes, exactly.
Anyway, could we go on, Lloyd?
You are muted, Lloyd.
Lloyd, can we go back to the...
Can I mention something briefly?
Yeah.
Sorry, this is from the Brill Encyclopedia of the Quran, 6 volumes. And it actually does mention something related. And it says here, there were remarks made about Muhammad's language being inarticulate, and these were followed by a famous essay in Noldecker, zur Sprache, on syntactical and stylistic peculiarities on the language of the Quran. And he discusses 30 aspects of such peculiarities, including formulaic repetitions of Hal Atako Haditu, zur Sprache 8, and problems resulting from the dictates of rhyme, like the shift of a verb form. You've got here, Farikan, Qad habtum wa Farikan taqtuluna. So yeah, Noldecker zur Sprache 9. So yeah, and Murad has spoken about this, and others have spoken about the way the language was butchered to make these words fit. So that.
Oh yeah.
So that,
I concur. Yeah, I didn't want to involve Nildik. I wanted to keep it somewhat understandable. But anyway, thank you. It is only in Aramaic, and particularly in Syriac, that this word formation is productive and gives rise to the nomina agentis, the nouns of agent, and many of these words were later adopted into Arabic. Consequently, neither the morphophonetic form of the word nor its meaning allows us to conclude that it is in fact an Arabic word. In fact, it is the common word for savior, redeemer in Jewish dialects of Aramaic and Palestinian Christian Aramaic, and above all, Syriac. And here you see on the left again, Brockelman, Paruka, which does give Yeshua in Hebrew and Moshiach, which is a Messiah or a Savior, Salvator, Liberator, and in the English version on the right from Payne Smith, a Savior, a Deliverer, Preserver, especially the Savior of mankind. I'm going to stay neutral here so you can 3 guesses who it is. So the conclusion is Al-Faruq is the savior. This was, as we have seen, was a form that appeared strange to Arab speakers who wished to render it as Farik. Oh, there I got it wrong. Farik, the macron should be on the I, my apologies. To confirm to Arabic morphophonology, it was variedly given. Originally, the term is Syriac and has a very specific form. So my point is that if you've got Furqana in the Quran and in the later Islamic tradition, you have these savior figures. As I said, we discussed briefly yesterday, I've written on that Muhammad is a messianic epithet. And Ali, you just have to read up on him. He's copy-paste of Jesus, basically. And Umar ibn al-Khattab, well, riding into Jerusalem on a donkey, attributed to him and certain other things. So you see why they got it. They misunderstood it. And it's clear that Furqana means salvation and not Criterion. By changing, probably through ignorance, the meaning to Criterion, you see why it became used for the Quran, because as we saw initially, it seemingly refers in some verses of the Quran to the Torah. So that was the presentation. I hope it wasn't too boring.
Very well done. Well done, Professor.
Thank you. Just a lowly colonial, sir.
I was thinking, just a couple of thoughts occurred to me in all this. Nikolai Sinai, I think, is going in the same general direction as you in key terms of the Quran. I blocked out my video so that you wouldn't see me hastily looking it up. But he also says that there is a view that Furqan means on the one hand Criterion and on the other hand salvation, but then he puts it together and says, but actually it's not really a very great distinction at all, because, as you said, salvation means separating people and from chaff and so on.
Yes, but I would say it makes a great difference, because so it's here. It is it the book of the Criterion, or is it salvation? So since we don't know too much about the how the Quran was formed and where it comes from, one could read Surah Al-Baqarah and Al-Imran as possibly meaning Criterion, but it's interesting there that even Pickthall changes it from Criterion there to deliverance in his their Criterion in Surahs 2 and 3, and elsewhere he has discrimination in 8. But so he sees the problem, but one could also translate it. Murad can confirm or deny it, but in Surah 2, 3, and 21 with deliverance, and 8 is clearly salvation.
Yes, and this is my opinion, is that throughout the entire Quran, it would be translated as deliverance. And also in Surah 25:1, we can read تبارك الذي نزل الفرقان على عبده. It would be, blessed is he who descended the deliverance or salvation over his servant, and this servant would be Moses.
Yeah, and that he may be a... it could, it's probably Moses, and it's, as I said, I wouldn't agree with the Warner here, but he extended his salvation over the people. I would concur with you there. Yes.
Yeah, because when we read the remainder of sorry, Paul, when we read the remainder of the surah, we do not have any friction reading this as deliverance and the abd here as just Moses.
No, I concur.
Yeah. Yes, Paul.
I mean, it does seem to me that there's a strong connection. Though not just seems to me. I think it's just a fact. A connection with Moses in particular. There is a particular, and one thinks of the Red Sea, but that would be a salvation. But of course, it's not a salvation for everybody. It's only a salvation.
Salvation is never for everybody.
Sorry?
Salvation is never for everybody.
No. So I wonder if a way of looking at it is rather like, as Jesus would say, the narrow gate, or the gate, was it the eye of the needle, or what the Quran would say, the steep path. It's this idea of it's a sift, if you like,
Yeah.
or a
Well,
it's not separate. It's not shuffling a pack of cards. It is picking out the ones who are to be saved.
Yeah. What I would say, though, Murad, first of all, Paul, I concur with you, because if everybody is saved, nobody is saved. It's no fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's the gentlemen who sit at the bar of the Titanic and drink the last champagne while the women and children go in the boats. But I would just say that with whether it's Moses in Surat al-Furqan, because you have Tabaraka ladhi nazala al-Furqana ala abdihi liyakuna lil alamina nadiran. It's okay, which is not a warner. Alladhi lahu mulku samawati wal ardi walam yatakhid waladan. So I think there with it's probably a reference to Jesus, Murad, with all respect.
Yeah,
And I
that
mentioned
fits better.
Because Nadir, I bored everybody with Nadir, where I said, so you have Nadir, and especially Nadira in Arabic, which means a sacrifice, i.e. what you give when you make a vow.
Yes, and this is the same word exactly in the Quran.
Yeah, so my
Nazar
point
is
is he's
vow.
not a warner, and I pointed out it always comes together with Bashir and Al-Haq. And Bashir, Bashara is, of course, a Christian term, and Al-Haq, and I pointed out the parallels with the New Testament, so that and where you are right, for example, if you look in the Hebrew Bible, Ebed, which is Abd in Arabic, is used for Moses mostly. It's not a common title in the Old Testament, but it's especially used for Moses. But here I think in Surah Al-Furqan, it's probably a reference to Jesus.
I mean, is this relevant? I'm just curious, because I've been using the software now just to index certain words. And it mentions that verb tenses appear to shift purely for the sake of rhyme. This is in the Rutledge Companion to the Quran by George Archer and Maria M. DeKaki, whatever. While an example occurs in the critique of the Israelites, and it says, whenever there came to you a messenger with what your hearts do not desire, you do not grow arrogant, and then you rejected one group, and one group you killed. And they've got these references here, and it says this should be a past tense form. So is this of any relevance here? That's a transliteration there for 287, and it's got this Furqan. Does this also maybe affect how we learn it or translate it, or because the forms have been altered and it muddies the tenses or meaning?
I don't think so, Lloyd, here.
Here it doesn't.
Because Fariq here would be like a separate group.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the Fariqan here. That's a different.
Okay, different.
Yeah. So the Fariqan who kadhabtum. So because there's two. There are two Fariq here, which usually in the Quran means a faction. So there's a faction who denied, and what is interesting is that what I think the author there is referring to is that this Kadhabtum is a perfect, and Taqtuluna is an imperfect.
Yeah, it's just that one of the things I tend to do is I find every reference I can that has a topic, I dump it in a folder, and then I index it. And using the software, I can go through and find every every use of a particular term or phrase, and I look at what is the context in each, right? And in this case, within a couple of seconds, it's finding this, and so you start to build up a picture when you look at like 100 or 200 or 300 uses of a given term. What have different scholars said, and you can start to pinpoint patterns eventually. But generally what think I see is misuse or misunderstanding or misrepresentation of the term. So there's confusion. So therefore there's a misunderstanding of the term by the Muslim authors.
Yeah, Lloyd, I just wanna add something. The word Furqan, when Muslims say it means criterion between right and wrong, this is like what the young people today say cope. This is something that they made up, totally made up. They looked at the word faraqa as a verb meaning separate, so they scratched their head and then said, separate what? There is nothing better than separating between right and wrong. Because today we never ever use the word Furqan as separating between right and wrong. Ever.
Wouldn't it be separate wheat from chaff, the saved from the unsaved, righteous from the unrighteous?
This is how they thought about it because they had no knowledge of the Syriac word. So they made this up, and it kept going throughout history till we have it now. But this is total coup. We never use the word Furqan for separating anything. This is not in the Arabic language. This comes from Syriac.
Yeah, so the form is also odd in Arabic, but it's not impossible.
Yeah, I mean, we never use it. It's just
no,
it's like a fossil inside the Quran. We never use it.
Yeah, just very quickly, I wanted to show for the audience, because on the slides from Professor Kerr, so it had the actual meaning, and maybe they were reading, okay, so what is the big deal? So the Furqan is given to Moses, so that's that. But that's actually not the way that it's been exegeted. So they have this verse here, 25:1, and they are all going to insist that the Furqan is going to be the Quran, and that the person that is being referred to here is always about Prophet Muhammad. When we go through the verses, generally it's either Jesus, Moses, sometimes Abraham, sometimes perhaps the Holy Spirit, someone else, but it's just the exegesis is what they use in order to say, no, this is our guy, when that's not the case.
Yeah, so the point is that I agree with Saint Murad here that the first exegetes, they had no idea of the Bible. They didn't know Aramaic. So when you also when you look at Furqan with the Arabic lexicographers, the classical lexicographers, they're not sure what its derivation is. That's usually a sign that that's in Maltese exactly. But the point is that okay, let's just put it down to ignorance. The point is that if you still do it today, so I'll give you an example that in the 19th century cuneiform was deciphered, so Babylonian, Assyrian, and what have you. It's also a Semitic language. And if you look at, for example, Psalm 140, verse 12, you have the term Ish Lashon, which in older translations is usually translated a man of language, a person of language. But one thing that we've learned from Akkadian is basically the same cognate expression, Shalishani, means a slanderer or informer, which would give us the translation, let this slanderer not be established on earth. So the point is that if you look at Bible translations, they improve with the more discoveries we make, and they're adapted to it. And the point is with Quran translations, they keep with their classical authorities, Tabari and whoever, instead of taking recent researches into account. That would be my argument. So exactly why the Furqan was misunderstood in the 10th century. Well, we can speculate, but it's not really relevant. The point is that we have today is they should, Quran readers should realize where the term comes from, and it actually means something else, and actually means that the Quran is dependent on the Bible, especially in the Aramaic tradition.
Yeah. This triggers a remark from my part. But first of all, before I forget, Robert, you wrote that Nazir could mean Nazarene.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be better translated as Nazarite?
Okay, Nazar. What I'm not
because they are not the same. Same thing.
No, what I mean is that somebody who's taken the Nazarite vow in the
so not a Nazarene.
Nazarene
Nazarite. Saraya with a tzadeh. And a Nazir is with a zayin in Hebrew. So it's not the same. Same word.
Well, in Hebrew,
you're a linguist here.
No, in Hebrew, it's with a tzadeh and a zayin. It's a doublet. It's a doublet.
And for the remark, this explanation on the criterion being actually the salvation, I think it gives the Quran a sort of connection with Moses, of course, but with all the things he had to do to vanquish the armies of the Egyptians.
Exactly.
So it adds a very warlike color to the Quran, because it's about Moses fighting and the Hebrews fighting against their enemy. And this reminded me of the explanation of the three-letter Alif Lam Mim. You know, at the beginning, for example, of Al-Baqarah, Surah 2, there are these letters, and our friend Bruno Bonnet-Aymar, you might remember that he proposed an explanation for these three letters as being a reference to a psalm, as meaning gods of salvation, gods of victories. Elohenu, Lemoshaot, something like this, which would add even more warlike color, because this psalm 68, it's a psalm that praises God as he smashes his enemies, as he kills all of his enemies. And this is what I get from your explanation, introducing this very Moses-like type of salvation. It gives the Quran. It sort of makes it.
I'm sorry, Odon. Could you just go over that? Could you cover that again, Odon? Just go back a bit about the what's the connection between the letters and the psalm?
The letters Alif Lam Mim, they could mean gods of salvation, which is an expression from Psalm 68. I have the psalm here. I was looking at it. Where is it? Psalm 68, verse 20. So according to Bonnet-Aymar is a French scholar who translated the first 5 surahs of the Quran.
The first guy the first guy I know who came out with the Jerusalem thesis.
So the verse is God is unto us a God of salvation. And the word is Lemoshaot. Pardon my Hebrew. So it's not the same. It's not the same root as in Furqan. Something else. It's another expression.
But
maybe the same as Yeshua.
Well, it's Ha'il Yeshuatenu, the God of our salvation.
Yeah, the God of our salvation. And if you read the whole of the psalm, it's all about praising God because he smashes the heads of his enemies. You will trample in their blood. It's very warlike, and this for me is a clue that the kind of salvation that is referred to with this Furqan, it's not a peaceful salvation. It's the salvation you get through combat, through battle, by conquering and vanquishing your enemies.
Well, if I could share my screen here differently. Here, if you look at the comprehensive Aramaic lexicon, there you have Yeshuat, or Ha'il Yeshuatenu, the God of our salvation, and the Qur'ana, him of our salvation, and Allah Paruk.
Oh, okay.
In Syriac. So yeah, it could good that. Yeah, Puin also has a theory in the last volume of Inara on where these letters come from, but I agree it's entirely possible. It's entirely possible.
So in a sense, it could mean another mention of the Furqan.
Yeah.
Sort of a coded mention.
It certainly.
Can I add that?
Can you go up a bit with the,
I was muted. Sorry.
Can you go up there with the Hebrew in verse 19, Lloyd?
But notice God will smash the heads of all opponents, which aligns with what Odon was saying. I mean, so God is our deliverance. God is a God of deliverance. God will smash the heads.
And you can go down. You will see it's very gory.
Your feet
that
may
your feet may wade through
blood.
blood. That the tongue of your dogs may have its portion of your enemies. So on.
A lot of aggression, and yeah.
Yeah. But verse 29, Tziva Elohecha Uzech Uza Elohim Zu Pa'alta Lanu. The God will decree your victory, which is a triumph, which you have prepared for us. So,
What do you want to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that in the Quran, the word Furqan, a lot of times it comes with Huda, and Huda in the Quran is the opposite of Dalala, and that is most of the time physical. So it means with Huda, guide as having like a tour guide today. So someone guiding you on the ground. So if you have the salvation, which is the road that has been crafted for you, then you have the guidance to walk on this road. Then this means that these two words actually are closer together. But in the Islamic interpretation, you get an idea as if everything is abstract. So guidance just being guided and your heart being guided and this stuff, this is not in the Quran. It's more literal. So I think this strengthens the idea even further that we are talking about salvation.
Oh, that's a good point. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
May I ask? So when you showed that the word Furqan was at one point seen as the Quran, as the Quran is the thing that saves already for that group, as we've seen in the pseudo letter of Leo XIII. But then when we've looked at the verses in the Quran, even though they are exegeted to be very Islamic, you've shown some that they are very clearly about Moses. Furqan is near Moses as redemption or deliverance. And then 25:1, which is Moses or Jesus, and so on. Do you think that when the Quran uses the word Furqan, is it always going to be attached to Moses and Jesus, and then it is being exegeted wrong? Or do you think that it ever refers to this new preacher preaching this new way of salvation, or do you think it's always a historical event?
No, because there's no mention of Muhammad anywhere there in the in these verses of the Quran. It's been read into it. It's not exegetical, it's eisegetical. There is no mention here of Muhammad, and of course the point is, one could say that who is responsible for salvation in the Bible? Well, in many ways, Jesus is conceived as the new Adam and the new Moses. I mean, the first covenant was with Moses, and the second was with Jesus in the New Testament. So that these are associated with these two figures should come as no surprise to anybody. Just to mention the Lloyd, you had somebody Salam or somebody who mentioned Targum Onkelos. Yes, Targum Onkelos is certainly pre-Islamic, as all of the Targums are actually. The point is here, what I meant was it doesn't mean Quran in the Targum Onkelos, it means clearly salvation. The Arabic reinterpretation came much later. I hope that's clear now.
Fair enough.
I remember also that Muhammad Lamsayyah, the Moroccan scholar who looks at the manuscripts, that in a certain manuscript they flipped the word Quran with dhikr, or the other way around. So it seems that there was this idea of flipping the word to give it a different meaning, because as dhikr in the Quran most of the time it gives the idea of being the Torah, not being the Quran. So maybe they did the same thing with Furqan, and we just don't have the physical evidence for it yet.
Yeah, a dhikr in, where is that? In, it does mean, one second, Surat al-Hijr, I think. One second. Hang on. نحن نزلنا نحن نزلنا الذكر
وإن له لحافظون.
Exactly.
So this was originally إن نحن نزلنا القرآن, right?
There are manuscripts that read that, if I remember correctly. Yes.
So you see, Lloyd,
but the point is
they played with they changed the word, substituted the dhikr with the Quran easily.
Yeah, but what is interesting here is that you have in 15:8 Nunazali al-malaikata ila bil-haqi, etc., with the truth, and then he goes. If it says Nazalna dhikra as a reminder, which is what dhikr really means, then the most optimistic that we can be is that then there's another problem, that the Quran doesn't replace the Bible, it just sort of sent as a refresher course or something.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
This is what the lectionary is supposed to be.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the Reader's Digest version, and so you don't forget.
I'll just put this up. I'll look at this in the Encyclopedia of Islam in the index. It says the people of the dhikr, al-dhikr, possessors of edification, a Quranic term signifying witnesses of previous revelations, which is fascinating. And then if we step forward, dhikr, remembering Allah, reciting the names of Allah, the tireless repetition of an ejaculatory litany, which is obviously ritualistic mantras to create a particular psychological state, which, according to the Sufis anyway, puts you out of your rational mind and into pre-rational or post-rational states, which dislocates you from your rational mind and allows you to penetrate the veil and make communion with Allah in his throne room, right? A religious service common to all the mystical fraternities, and also the revelation sent out. So the words become, shall we say, multi-purpose. So, but always about, I would say roughly, it's weirdly enough, when you read through the encyclopedia, roughly half the time, these words have some kind of occultic, magical, ritualistic connotation. Oddly
Well,
enough, just
yeah, but if you go to, for example, to 1643, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا مِن قَبْلِكَ إِلَّا رِجَالًا نُوحِي إِلَيْهِمْ فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ. And this is where you get the possessors of previous scriptures, but this doesn't really much improve the case for what the Quran is.
yeah. I'm just also curious. Also, they mentioned Sufi movement, prolonged holding of breath, and which takes us potentially to the hesychastic practice of the Orthodox, which seems to be borrowed from these guys. So yeah,
I think
well, dhakara, it just means to remember, not to forget.
Yeah, my 2 penneth on this, coming with my Jerusalem perspective, is that there are 2 verses in the Quran where it talks about the place where God's name is remembered. I think it's in Surah Al-Baqarah and in the light verse. And I think in the light verse in particular, I think in both of them, there's a good argument that could be made that is talking about Jerusalem. And you think, well, why is, I could explain why, but take it from me. In Surah Al-Baqarah, it's because it seems to link in with the call to arms verses. 2:114 doesn't actually make any military mission, but it seems to me to have quite a lot in common with the call to arms verses in 2:190 to 193. So I think it's referring to the same place. But in Surah 24, in the light verse, I think it's much clearer that is a reference to the menorah and to the light that would shine forth even if it had from the oil would shine forth even if it had no wick. I think that refers to some rabbinic or Jewish law. And if it's referring to the place where God's name is remembered, and on at least 2 occasions it's referring to Jerusalem, I would suggest that might be because the priest is allowed to announce God's name, is allowed to say Jehovah in the temple on one day of the year, isn't he? Because there's normally a prohibition upon saying the name of Jehovah, as anyone who's seen the life of Brian will know. And but there's one exception to that, which is the high priest can say it in the Holy of Holies or during one ceremony in the year. Mm-hmm. So it's a less exciting mystical interpretation, but it could just be referred to remembrance of God's name.
Is this true, what he says here? In 2 passages, the Quran uses the phrase the people of the dhikr as a synonym for al-kitab. and Tabari listed dhikr as one of the names of the Quran alongside the names Quran, Furqan, Kitab. Or did they just add this in later because they needed to make up something?
No, I think
Yeah.
that as I said, as we saw in Surah 15, if you take it, then you could take it to refer to the Quran.
Mhm. Yeah. I just like working through like using the software to find every reference.
نحن نزلنا الذكر. Well, then you can see why, if you're looking at it Quranocentric, why they would take it to mean the Quran.
Mm.
But then the problem is if it's this book about which there is no dissension, how many titles does it have? How many names does it have? So what I mean is, I'm going back to JC's comment with the Armenian, where it's Furqan becomes the classical Armenian, the word for Quran, and he asked the same book or a different book. It's a legitimate question, of course, but if you're talking, it's the Quran, it's the Furqan, it's the Dhikr, and it's the Kitab. Well, we discussed last week that Kitab probably refers to the Bible, and the Quran, and even Quran refers to something else. But the point is, if it's this unanimous book, how many titles does it have? You get the impression that yes, but a book usually only has one title. I mean,
yeah, and it looks as well like we can see through the tafsirs how they actually created this illusion that this book is talking about itself. When it says that something is sent down, like in Surah 97, they are stuck. They're not going to say Jesus was sent down, so something is sent down. Okay, so now it's the Quran, and that creates problems. So we can see that. But if I can ask a question about the timeline, so because of what Murad said. So right now, every Muslim will say Furqan means Criterion, don't ask any questions, because that's what they have now pushed to all of them. But presumably, when this was actually recited very early on, they would understand that these verses are not talking about Muhammad, they're talking about Moses, they would know what the Furqan is. So how do you think, and when, if it was the Abbasids or somebody else, how could they convince the Arab population to go from verses that they could somewhat understand to a completely different meaning of the verses?
But if you have central control through scribes who work under the caliph or something, then they can enforce a particular interpretation.
And we do
Well-
not have Umayyad interpretations. We do not have them. So we do not have something from the Umayyads. And if
Well,
we do have, then it's
yeah. Sorry.
no, sorry, sir. It's just that
No.
if we do have,
There's no Umayyad Quran, as far as I know.
So they created a story.
I'm talking about the interpretations. Yes, Lloyd, the interpretations, they come after the Umayyads.
Yeah, I mean, this one speaks of the day of the Criterion, the Yom al-Furqan, which signaled the distinction between right and wrong, which the Battle of Badr had wrought. So now they're tying the term to an event, which is another potentially fake event. So they're building up a mythology around it afterwards.
So I think that we discussed the Battle of Badr in the already, and and it's based on two verses in the Quran. One I had in my presentation, and in Surah 8, and the other is in Surah 3, I think, where Badr is mentioned, but where I mentioned that the where is it in the 1 second Yeah, if we go to 841, as I said in my presentation, that the what we revealed unto our slave on the day of discrimination, Ibn Kathir says, Badr is Yawm al-Furqan. But the problem here, so, and it's based on Surah 3 as well, I think, where Badr is mentioned. But they've taken two verses together, and as I showed in my presentation that was 2 or 3 weeks ago, it's clearly a reference to the drowning of the army of the Pharaoh in the Quran. And the Battle of Badr was concocted out of it, because the problem is, if you look at the Battle of Badr, what it basically was, it was a raid on a Quraysh caravan. It wasn't the Battle of Waterloo or anything. So what was decided here? Well, there you see it in the later exegesis, because they say, yes, the Quraysh had a huge majority of soldiers. And if you read the later Maghazi accounts, you know, even the angels and the slain rose from the dead to continue fighting. And the angels interceded on behalf of Muhammad, and it was seen as a divine intervention. But still, what was actually decided at this battle? This isn't Berlin, May 1945.
May I ask a question, Professor, about
Yes.
the word Ajami or Ajam? Does it
Yeah.
appear anywhere before the Quran? Do we know any cognate or any meaning for this word before the Quran?
No. So in the Quran, it's used twice in this sense. So it's used as a group. It's used as a group. 1 second. 1 second. Let me just look it up here. Bear with me a second. 1 second. When did you hang on a sec? But I don't know about it in previous languages, not off the top of my head.
Yes, because I looked into it and it seems that the Quran actually is the first document to come up with this word. And this word, it later meant Persians in the medieval times. So we say Bilad al-Ajam, meaning the Persians. But the Quran could be saying something like the people who are inarticulate. They have a ujma in their tongue, meaning they are inarticulate. And this would pose a problem for the word Arabi, because if Arabi has the meaning, has an Arabic meaning, it would mean articulate. And since the Quran is referring to a tongue, so this tongue is articulate and this tongue is inarticulate. Not this tongue is Arabic and this tongue is foreign. And I'm asking, is this conclusion correct? Because we do not have Ajami anywhere before the Quran. So this is the question.
No, but it could. But I think this is a genuinely Arabic word, because if you look in 2661, Falama Tarah Al-Jami Kala Ashabu Musa. And this is clearly the two opposing sides there. And my argument was, it's only in 841 and 2661 where Gamani is used in this sense in the Quran as the two opposing sides. So because Jam in the Quran, it usually means an assembly or group or something as well. But here it's only used twice in the sense of two opposing groups. And in the one hand, it's clearly the Israelites in the army of Pharaoh.
Yeah, I was speaking specifically about Ajam, not Jam.
Ajam.
Ajam. So
Okay, sure.
Ajam is understood as foreign, but the word is not to be found before the Quran. So it seems that the Quranic author came up with the word Ajam. And Ajam, it would mean someone whose tongue is tied, who's inarticulate.
Yeah.
So my question is, if the Quran is the first to introduce this word, then these whole verses about the Quran being Arabi and not Ajami are late. And since the Quran always mentions Ajam as opposite to Arab, then it would mean that the Quran is articulate tongue, not an inarticulate tongue. And this would remove the idea that the Quran says, I am Arabic, you know?
Yeah, Arabiya Mubin. Yeah.
It would be articulate, and Mubin, it has bayan, which is evidence. So it means this Quran is articulate and backed up by evidence. Because this is the only way
Well, that's a good
to
thought.
save Ajam, to interpret Ajam.
Something
Yeah.
small. Sorry, please continue.
No, I hadn't thought of that, but I think you're on a right track there.
Yeah, there's hopefully a few things Murad will discuss with us in the future, especially related to Sabaik. This is Tisdall. This was 1904 that he published this one, a manual of the leading Mohammedan objections to Christianity. He deals with Islamic polemics and he answers them. And oddly enough, there's a use of the word Furqan here. He mentions a list of verses and he says, these verses teach, and this is the Islamic dilemma, these verses teach us that the Taurat and Injil were in the hands of the people of the book. They had been sent down by God and they were carefully studied. The Bible is called the Word of God, and the law is also distinguished by the title Furqan, which you deem the highest title of the Quran itself. Is this consonant with your assertion that the Bible had been corrupted before Muhammad's time? So it's odd that he raises the word Furqan, but uses in the context of the Islamic dilemma 126 years ago, 24 years ago. Interesting.
Well, part of the thing is, but I think Murad can correct me, is that I think that if you look at the sense of tahrif, because it's never mentioned what is tahrif, but tahrif means basically to vowelize, to point a text. So they say the text has been pointed wrong, not that it's been falsely interpreted.
Well, sir, I came to the same conclusion, but my only question would be about the word an, because an, I think it's Arabic only. So when they say يحرفون الكلم عن مواضعه, it would mean off, O-F-F. So they are vowelizing it off their situated places. And this is a very strange Arabic way of saying things. The word an, when it comes, it's suspicious in the Quran, you know?
Mm-hmm. Certainly, yeah.
If I may, just to add on Murad's comment, so I really hope that is going to be proven to be correct, and Arab is actually not there. It wouldn't surprise me because we have seen so much of the Quran that meant one thing, and then they have tried to make it all. They're trying to push the book into the story of Muhammad. They're putting Muhammad where he is not. They're putting the Quran where it's not. The word kitab sometimes means Torah, sometimes Injil, sometimes Quran, sometimes Revelation. They play with absolutely any word that they can in order to push everything to Mecca, to Badr, to Uhud, to all of these basically areas where they create the narrative. So it wouldn't surprise me if they had done the same with the word Arab, because that one links directly to this new movement, and it might not have been them at all. So I hope that works.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Also, in terms of the idea of tahrif, if you go through the early sources, the claims go back to about the 8th century already, and then already there's disagreement over whether it's actual corruption of the text or whether it's misinterpretation of the text. And the Islamic scholars are literally all over the place. There's no consensus whatsoever. I actually have a presentation on this one And when you go through, and a lot of this is applied in the context of Paul, and they slam Saint Paul basically with. And I went through about 8 or 9 different Islamic scholars who were sort of the giants of their given century at that time, and I went through a whole series of this over hundreds of years. And based on the whole Tahrif claims, because a lot of it's aimed at him. For instance, they make the claim that Paul was the king of the Jews, that Paul was King Saul, literally, that Christians followed Islam for 81 years after Jesus died, and then it was corrupted. Paul was a wicked Jew who committed suicide to destroy Christianity. He killed himself as a Jew to destroy Christianity. Paul was a good Christian, and he influenced the Romans to destroy the Jews. Christians never believed Jesus was divine. Paul invented the concept of the Trinity. Paul caused the Crusades. The Crusades were fought to hide Paul's lies that the Muslims were going to reveal. And a Muslim believer had saved Christ's original teachings, which he then gave to Muhammad, and Muhammad revealed Islam. It's ridiculous. But you go through all these claims, it is a riot of stupidity. Hysterically funny, but except it's just bizarre.
Yeah, no, part of the, sorry, just to go back to Murad, part of the problem there with Yuharifuna Kalima, you have in the Quran, if I remember correctly, with min and with an.
We have an in the Quran, it means about. So يسألونك عن, it would be about. But also it means of. So off, off. So أراغب أنت عن آلهتي يا إبراهيم. So are you having a desire away or off my deities, Abraham? So it would mean they are vowelizing, or they are removing the vowels. This is the problem, because I do not see an before the Quran. It's a Quranic invention, this word an.
No, I concur. Yeah. So it means something else here, clearly. Yeah. And well, with what Lloyd said, there is a hadith I remember reading quite a while ago. But what's interesting, when you look at Pentecost of the New Testament, there's a hadith that Muhammad finds an old document, and it's with the sending of the 70 out, and where everybody spoke in their own language. And in the hadith, basically, Muhammad tells his companions, but don't do the same things the disciple of Jesus did. And there, apparently, the confusion in all of the teachings of Christianity are due to Pentecost. And i.e., when I send you guys out to announce Islam, you all have to send the same message. I'll have to, 1 second, maybe I can find it quickly.
Just when you go through the Islamic scholars and their stories, there's so many varieties of story that they clearly can't be true, because there's just so much confusion, and they tend to pick whatever was convenient or most suitable at the time. But the variety of stories in different centuries, it just changes constantly. And there's the question, the early view was that early Muslim scholars claim that Christians misunderstood or misrepresented the Bible, whereas the later view, as it's characterized, was that they had physically altered the words in the text. So there was the, 2 different kinds of tahrif. And and a lot of it's tied to Paul, so they try to pin it on Paul, basically.
I mean, it's all late. They are all late inventions.
Of course,
to make sense out of the Quran.
But it goes back to the 8th century or earlier. You can find it.
Yeah, no, I have it here. It's from the Sirah. I'll just try to translate it quickly. Allah sent me in mercy to all people. Take a message from me. Allah be merciful to you. Don't abandon me like did the apostles of Jesus, the son of Mary, who abandoned me. They asked how the apostles abandoned Jesus, and he said he called them to a mission which is not unlike the one I'm calling you to, to do. Those who had to undertake a short voyage were happy and took it. Those who had to undertake a long voyage were all unhappy and refused to go. And Jesus complained to Allah, and then everybody was able to speak the language of the people who they were supposed to be sent to, and which is, of course, here the author knows Eusebius and with the list of the apostles, but also the apostles. But what's clear is because it says "Ikhtalafa al-Khawariyun ala Isa," that the reason for the confusion of the apostles is that they didn't tell the message they were supposed to tell.
Yeah, it might also be a forced interpretation for 61:14. Who will be my helpers to God? The disciples said, "We will be helpers." One contingent of the son of Israel believed, and another disbelieved.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah. And there you have your Ansara al-Ahi, Odon.
Yeah, sort of.
Can I just ask one more question, please, about the Sabaic inscription, which says that the Lord of the Jews and their Muhammad or their Mahmad. So, what does Mahmad mean in Sabaic on this inscription? The people who wrote this, what did they have in mind?
That is the $60 million question. I've published on it somewhere, and one second. Let me just find the article here. Oh, 1 second. Let me just find it. Then I know, because I don't have it in my head. It's been a while since I looked at it.
Hey, Steve, Dr. Kerr, while you're taking a moment, Steve, Husein, we'll call you Husein, why not? Welcome again. I'm curious, you are very active in the apologetic scene. I mean, you're out there in the street, you are talking to Muslims, talking to Christians, trying to help Christian apologists, but also working against Muslim dawah. I mean, the work that we do here, tell us again, like you did the fascinating info you gave us on the Dome of the Rock, which we'll do a series on or talk on. I mean, how do you find this information helpful? How would we use it? What do we need to do to make it useful to people like yourself out in the field?
Well, first of all, it's an amazing topic, and I'm really, and I just want to say it's a real honor to be on here with Saint Murad, because I've seen some of your stuff, man. Really, I love the way your brain works, and because he knows the Arabic and he gets into the nitty gritty, which is some of these prepositions, some of this, like the word an and ala, you know, and if you don't read the Arabic, it's kind of, they get away with a lot of deception. There's so much deception in the translations of the Qur'ans, and so to know those prepositions. I know you guys remember when Muhammad Hijab did a debate with David Wood, and the question was, does Allah pray? You know, who Allah prays to? And Muhammad Hijab was able to divert everybody's attention with the word Allah. You know, that Allah, does Allah pray on, or does Allah pray for, or does for Muhammad? Does he pray on Muhammad? Does he pray under Muhammad? You know, whatever. And it's because of these little words in the Arabic and they're being used when you go out on the street and you talk to Muslims. They don't know a word. They know 2 words of Arabic. They know how to say sallallahu alaihi wasallam or something like that. And then they think they're experts because of that. And so to actually have concrete knowledge of some of these Arabic words is so important. And just everything that you guys have been saying here with your knowledge of Arabic that has been very useful. I really appreciate it. And
Yeah, Brother Hussein, this is great to talk with you. And let me tell you that I know you from the legend himself, Father Zakaria. I used to watch the the programs back in the day. I was very young, so I know you back when you were on TV. So it's good to be talking with you.
Yeah, thank you so much for what you've done and what you do, because really this is, thank God we got some amazing people now who really speak a lot of Arabic. Got Rob Christian, got Jai and Daughter of Christ, and that are really bringing the Arabic element into it. And so and my Arabic is, I grew up in the US. English is kind of my first language and Arabic is my second language. And so my knowledge of Arabic is not nowhere near your level, but I know enough when I hear American Muslims abusing it, and I know how the prepositions work enough to know that, dude, there's so much deception going on right now in this area. So it's very helpful to pin these things down and to be able to really understand them, because the devil is in this detail. So it's very good.
When you read Quranic grammar, they always make an exception to suit the occasion.
Could you say that again, son?
With Quranic grammar, they always make an exception to suit the occasion.
Yeah, yeah, and yes. For instance, if you're talking to CNN, if you're talking to Barack Obama, if you're talking to on the street, it's very flexible. It's called flexible grammar, and it's like something they came up with in the California education system.
Welcome back, Dr. Kerr.
Oh yeah, sorry, I got thrown out there. No, what I said was they always make an exception to suit the occasion.
Yes. Yeah.
So an accusative can be a genitive, and a genitive can be an accusative, depending on how you want the text to run.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't want to talk too much. I just want to say one thing that kind of shocked me recently. This shocked me recently. Because I wasn't aware of this, but Adam Seeker pointed it out to me. The belief that when Muhammad encountered that devil in the cave of Hira, and he knew it was a devil. He said "Lamessani jinn," and he knew it was a devil that came to him. And he came to his wife, said, "Cover me," and then she goes, "What happened? Oh, my cousin and everything." And showing that there was cousin marriage, but anyway, and then she takes him to Waraka bin Nawfal, and Waraka bin Nawfal. The interesting thing in the Arabic, and maybe Saint Murad can correct me if I'm saying this wrong, but he doesn't say that what came to you was this angel or a malak or something from that the same one that came to Moses, that this is the same angel that came to Moses. He literally says the same namus, the namus that came to Moses. The word namus means law. It's a very well known in the Bible, namus Musa, and namus, the law of Moses.
The namus comes from Greek, of course, nomos. It's the Torah.
Right, exactly, and in the Arabic,
it comes to Arabic through Aramaic again.
Of course, yeah, and it's very clear, and it's used with Moses all the time in the Gospel of John, it says, you know, that the namus came through Moses and the grace came through Jesus Christ. But they translate it as if it's Jibril, as if the namus is Jibril. And it's like, dude, this is such a lie.
If you know these tricks, we could then discuss it on the channel. We could actually deep dive on this and provide the necessary arguments to dismantle these particular polemics, right? Apologetics.
Well, yeah, I just want to say, just to jump in, that if you look, for example, in Syriac again, there you find that nomos, namosa, etc., however you, there's different vocalizations, but it's often used as to refer to the Torah, the law. And so it's clear where this is coming from.
And Husein, also adding to what you're saying, Muhammad, he replied, "Ma aqra," meaning, what should I read? Not,
Yeah.
I do not read. I do not read, or I cannot read, actually would be like the third option, the third way of looking at this.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
That's true.
It's
That
crazy. So how do they get away with these frauds, these easily spotted frauds?
Because
Essentially.
disagreeing with it is Islamophobia, my friend. You're being Islamophobic, okay? And this you have to accept. And this is what all Muslims, dude. I became, you know, I was taught in the Middle East in 1972, and this is what we were taught in 19. I mean, I know it goes back to hundreds of years, but this is exactly what I was taught. This is the first time I've heard that ma akra means I don't read. I mean, what should I read? I've never even, and you see, it's one little word, ma akra. What should I read? Yeah. Wow. That's amazing.
Please.
And Professor Kerr, I am really still enthusiastic to know the answer to
Well,
what the Sabbaic people have in mind when
So
writing
what's-
this inscription.
well, what one has to remember here, I'll just share my screen again. I found it here. Here we have the inscription in question. Do you see it? Is it there? Yeah, it's there. Where do I have it? Voila. Good. So this is on the Dasai database. There you see a photograph. It's oops. I'm sorry. 1 second. Oh, we should get. Now it doesn't want to work. Well, I'm going to just do. I'm going to go here. Okay, voila. And we'll just use the translation for now. So it's King Yusuf Dhunawas, exactly. This is after the incident at Najran, where the Christians were murdered. So he became Jewish, not that he was so much into Judaism, but he didn't want to be a Christian, and he wanted to ally with the Persians against the Romans and the Ethiopians. And so it's a description of the battle, and here we see Rahman, which is referring to the biblical God. And the line in question is the last line, by the Lord of the Jews, by the highly praised, which one can read here. Rab Hud, which is, we know from the Quran, Be Mahmad or Be Muhammad, what have you. The so this is clearly dated to 523, because we know that Dhunawas Yusuf was killed in 525. The point is here, what is this? So we have Hamad in older Sabbaic inscriptions, but it means something different. So what you see in the latest phase of Sabaic is, it's phase E usually called. So this is from the first centuries AD. This is when monotheism by the sea route, not through the desert route, reaches Yemen, and you have a lot of Judaism and Christianity. And they borrow large-scale Christian and Jewish Aramaic terms into Sabaic. So the question here is, with this inscription, it's Birab Hud bi Muhammad, by the Lord of the Jews, with, or whatever, his Mahmad, his Muhammad, whatever. So the question is, it's clear here that Muhammad has to be some aspect of the God of Israel. My proposition in my article was that it could well be a messianic epithet here. So it could be by the Lord of the Jews and his desired one or something. It could be a messianic title here. Because in older Sabaic, it doesn't have this meaning.
How did you translate that? Desired one? Which Muhammad? Do you
That is
translate it?
no, that is not my translation. I said I translated by the Lord of the Jews by Muhammad. Is how I translated it.
Oh,
This is
But
not
you
my.
wrote Muhammad.
This is not my translation here,
Mm.
but of course, this is a clear reference to a pre-Islamic Muhammad in relation to the biblical God. And when you read the account in Syriac of the killing of the Christians in Najran, there's two women there called Mahmada or Muhammada. So it was a name, but a Christian name, which makes sense as the desired one, because, they're apparently pretty girls. But here the point is, we have it here clearly in what's certainly a Jewish context. And Muhammad is standing in some relation to God. I'm just trying to find, while we're talking, where I've written about what it means beforehand. But this is a one-off inscription. Second, I'm not, as I said, I'm always surprised here that I wasn't prepared for this, but but it's used, but not in this sense, because of course, prior to the period E, there's no monotheistic influence in the Yemen. But so here, so my argument in my article was that Mahmad, it's not an Arabic term, but it's originally a messianic epithet.
But did the word Mahmad ever mean desire in Sabaic, or did it mean praise?
No, well, the point is, it's a loan word. It's a loan word in Sabaic. It's not originally. One second. Let me just find something here.
Paul, do you have a question in the meantime?
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Did you have a question in the meantime?
Oh yeah. So I was going to just comment that Gabriel Said Reynolds prefers the translation, the longed for one, which I think probably is slightly truer to, or seems more logical for a Messiah. You long for the Messiah rather than the desired one. The desired one always comes across as a bit fake. I think he actually takes it from Alois Springer. That's where he attributes it to, but of course he would have been speaking in German. But this idea of the longed for one seems to me to be a better translation. I don't know.
Yeah,
Wow.
these are the Hebrew semantics, and I 1 second. I'm just give me a second. Just bear with me here.
Ahmed Al-Jalad did speak about this on Myth Vision, the word Muhammad, found in Sabaik 2,000 years ago and more, if I recall correctly. And I think he was very uncomfortable that this starts to lend credence to, shall we say, the dissenters to the standard narrative. He seemed very uncomfortable. He didn't want to connect all the dots because that destroys the Islamic narrative outright. So to protect himself, he was a bit circumspect. But I think that even he's aware now that the dissenting view is, shall we say, gaining evidence.
Oh yeah, I agree. And my argument was, I think I had it. 1 second, let me just see here. Where are we? Da, da, da. I can't find it so quickly, but what it meant beforehand, but it's clearly something different. And the idea of the desired one, we've discussed this, I think, previously. If you look at, if you can turn it, put it on the screen there, Lloyd, Haggai 2, 6 to 7.
The desire of the nations.
Haggai.
Yes, the desire. Pardon? And it's Chemdat Kol Hagoyim, the desired one of the nations. But what is interesting, there, yeah, yeah, and the precious things of all the nations. So Chemdat Kol Hagoyim, which is Hamad, the root there. The point is that if you look at the Talmud, so if you click on the verse number 8 there, 7 or whatever it is, I can't see, 7, yeah, and then you go down on the right column, no, right, Talmud. Okay, which Talmud do we need? 50. Sanhedrin 97b 15.
This one.
Yeah. Yep. Oh no. Okay, no, but okay, go to texts then on the top left. Then Talmud, you've passed it. There, voila. Then go to, keep scrolling. No, there it was. Well, you go up.
What about Sanhedrin?
Voila,
There we go.
97b.
We should.
And down to 15.
There's 15 on the. Here we go.
Yeah. Oh yeah. if the Jewish people repent, they're not redeemed. Yahshua, rather good. And there's something there that with where is it? With Rabbi Akiva should be mentioned there somewhere down there.
Let me find. I think Akiva. There we go. It's on 7. That's only mentioned in 7.
Oh yeah, yeah. And the Messiah will come not in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, who would interpret here, etc. So the point is that Rabbi Akiva thought that Bar Kokhba was the Messiah, and he was criticized for that. And if you then go on to the verse with the Vulgate, Lloyd.
So where do I find the Vulgate? Actually, just search it up.
Yeah, just search it.
Which verse am I looking for?
Haggai. Oh, 1 second. I can just actually save time, maybe. If I can find it here.
Where I'm going? Well, while I'm here.
Haggai, where are we? So yeah, you just have to do 2, 6 to 7. So just turn on Haggai chapter 2 and you're good. 6. Yeah. Oh yeah. Quia haec dicit Dominus exercium ad hoc unum modicum est at 8. Et movebo omnes gentes, et veniet desideratus cunctis gentibus. So it's not desideratum there, it's the desired one. It's masculine, it's not neuter here. So also St. Jerome translates here the chemdat kol hagoyim as a person and not as an object. And in Hebrew, because the Hebrew here is difficult because the verb is plural, but chemdat is singular. So what is the verb referring to? But so my argument basically was to, I sent it to Odon this morning, the PDF version, the Word version, so you can get it off him.
I'm on it.
Yeah, my argument was that in Jewish and Christian traditions, because also St. Augustine follows this in the City of God, the idea that it's a person and not an object in Haggai, it's so that it's messianic, has a long tradition. So there, this is part of my argument that Hamada is not originally Arabic, it's borrowed from Hebrew.
Okay.
But you have to read the entire article. It's a bit of a long-winded argument.
Well, I mean, we're doing, I guess, research and analysis in real time as we're here, going through this in detail, which is not usually something one sees every day.
No.
This is interesting.
So the point is with the Sabaic inscription, the point is if it is as it was translated here on the, according to this, it says from the Italians who translated it, by the highly praised. Well, there is a problem here with some of the newer research into Sabaic. They tend to read it with a classical Arabic lexicon, and they don't tend to pay enough attention to the nuances of Sabaic itself. So if it's a loan word from Hebrew, it's probably not going to be the praised one. These are the semantics of Arabic, and this is not classical Arabic, this is Sabaic. And it's clearly in a Jewish context. So it has to do with Hamad, and we discussed this last time, so you can put on Song of Songs 5:16 from Sepharia there, Lloyd, if you would, please.
Again, please. Sorry.
Song of Songs 516.
Oh, this is the bit. This is the nuclear verse.
Ah, yeah.
Utu velus suavissimum.
Yeah, we should
So
start
to-
winding down. It's been a little
Yeah,
bit too
yeah.
long.
We can go into, can I have the Hebrew there too, please?
Where do we find the Hebrew?
Could I ask a question about
The Aleph at the top. The Aleph at the top. The A, go to the right, keep
Aleph.
going. There, yeah. Yeah. No. Oh, anyway. Yeah, go ahead, ask your question.
I was wondering if you knew about the, Waraka bin Nawfal, because I know that he was kind of he's the one who came up with the Namus thing and everything like that, very influential, and he was also big on translating, I believe, Matthew from Hebrew to the Arabic, and
Well, the
how's
question
he?
I don't
Go
think he's historical. I think he's about as historical as Muhammad is.
Okay.
Because of course it's an old topos. You get somebody else to prove that you're right. This is the other guy that what's this monk's name again?
Haida,
Yeah,
the monk.
Bahira.
Haida?
Yeah,
Yes.
Bahira.
Yeah. Muhammad's father. Yes.
No, Bahira. When he's on a caravan trip to Syria,
Right.
stories that Muhammad
Mark
sleeps in the
recognizes
shade.
him.
Yeah, he recognizes. So if you have somebody else that recognizes you, this is a proof that you're right type of idea. But with 516, 1 second, I can maybe do that here quickly. I can share my screen then.
Husein, just a word. Read my book on this topic. It's for free. You find the PDF version for free on my website. And I have lots of explanation about Waraka and Bahira and all these.
I mean, these are more like
Which
plot
video?
devices. They are convenient plot devices. They
Yeah,
don't
but
seem to be genuine people.
But there's more to it. The name Bin Naufal, it means something. Bahira, it also means something.
It means something.
Bahira
Yeah.
is a teacher in Aramaic.
1 second. Here we have 516. 1 second. Now where did it run off to?
It's 16.
Yeah, but I can't anyway.
You have 616 there.
516. Oh la la. Mamtakim vekulo mahmadim. Here, I can't find now. Where did this run off to? Oh, I see what happened. I have to get rid of this, and then I have to get rid of that, and I can't figure out where it went to. But anyway, but that is in 516 is where it's also a person, the nuclear verse, as you say, but it's when you look at 516, it's the desired one. It's that's her boyfriend, and he's too hot to handle.
Right. Yeah. So shall we wind down here? What do you think? I mean, so what have we taken away, everyone? Murad, what have you taken away from this? What have you learned from this?
Well, I'm always excited to talk with Professor Kerr because I always like to know his opinion about my theories. So I am glad that he concurred with many things. So I'm happy about
Kerr. Yeah, Dr. Kerr concurred. Yeah, I guess.
No, it's actually care we pronounce it, but that's different.
Ah, okay.
As in, who cares?
Yeah, Murad, it would be great if you talk about some of the Sabay stuff in the future. That'll be an interesting conversation. Talk more about that.
one of the things I found is that palms, it comes only from the south, because nakhl in the north, it would mean something like a river. So
Yeah.
So it seems like the Quranic author a lot of things he took from the South. So if something as basic as palm and even qamar, this is just a final question, sir, if I may ask. Does qamar come from anywhere other than Sabayik? Because they used to call it yarh all over the place, but not qamar. Qamar only comes from Sabayik, and the Quran borrowed it from Sabayik. So I want to just know your opinion about this.
Qamar is in a belt or something.
But I found that only the Sabayik people used qamar for moon, but anywhere else they used yarh.
Al-Qamar is in the full moon. Typically, it's one of the aspects of names on the full moon.
Yeah, it can mean in Syriac the zodiac, though, but I have to look it up. I can look it up for next week or next time.
Yeah. So, yeah, Odon, Paul, last words from you guys. Any thoughts?
It's another confirmation that the Islamic narrative is completely wrong. Everything has been messed up in order to the original text has been transformed, reinterpreted in order to justify the new religion. It's another smoking gun evidence that we had tonight.
I mean, if they can mess up the word Messiah so badly, then they can do other words too, I guess.
Yeah, well, what I mean, what the problem here is, and what Husein and also said, and Saint Murad, is that when you grow up with Arabic and with the Quran also to university, and you're taught the traditional interpretation, so you're taught Arabic grammar based on the text of the Quran, which as Husein and Saint Murad know, is a total mess in Arabic, and the grammar is often composed largely of exceptions. And for example, like just to stay with the Muhammad subject, the Muhammad in the Dome of the Rock, there is no reason, according to Arabic grammar, why it should be interpreted as a name. You could say most praiseworthy or most, what was the term you used, Paul, in good English?
Longed for one.
The most longed for. You don't need to translate it in Arabic as a name, and it doesn't need an article at the beginning of a sentence in Arabic. So the point is that if you're grown up with the traditional interpretation for which the grammar was designed around, it messes up, and also with the meaning of the vocabulary. So you have to keep going back to the previous sources. And if you find that prior to the Quran, something like Furqan is a technical term, and in biblically inspired monotheism, not the most irrelevant technical term, let us say, then your warning lights should go on.
At least constructed to be convenient as needed. Yeah, Husein, any thoughts from you?
Just the I'm really appreciative of the Arabic dimension of the stuff that has been said here today, because I really think there's when this thing is like it's kind of like, I feel like, just a picture of, when you're opening a can of, like something, you're using the can opener to open up the can, and then you open it up, and then a ton of, like if it's really old, then you get a ton of these insects that come out of it, and I feel like this, when you're talking about this linguistic issue, it like destroys Islam, not just for the translation errors because of what they're doing into English, which is so deceptive. It's such a lie, but in the Arabic, even for the Arabic Muslims, the Muslims who do speak Arabic, they too have been deceived, because the thing is so flimsy, it falls apart so easily. And so just listening to some of the stuff that was being said here today, especially around the Arabic, has been very beneficial.
Well, what is interesting, you can do an experiment, especially with, let's say, Christian Arab speakers, so from Christian families, who haven't grown up in the modern Middle East, so they're unfamiliar with Quranic language. And, you know, when you recite them Quran, they their brain often explodes and see what it's meant. But what one forgets, and Husein, you bring up a good point, that Quran translations are always written with a tafsir. So
Right.
you can always see, you know, based on a Quran translation, you can usually figure out pretty close to what tafsir is being used. And there is not so much. So if you just look in, for example, in the Encyclopedia of Islam, the first, the second, and the third edition, and their tafsir articles, what they find fashionable. So there isn't really so much of a exegetical continuum, as in my impression, of the Quran. You know, so you you have this famous thing after the Cairo Quran was published in 1924. The first book published by what was to become Saudi Arabia, it wasn't yet invented. It was just the Sultan of the Najd, the old Ibn Saud. But the first thing he did after the Cairo edition was published, the first book commissioned by the Sultan of the Najd was Ibn Qatir. And Farouk responded to publishing Tabari. So you have this whole exegetical controversy in the Quran. They can't even decide what it means themselves in many cases.
Agreed.
And you know the fact that they and this is a weakness. This is a weakness, but Muslims use it as a strength, as a point of strength. You know, they use the word ijma'. Ijma'. When they say ijma', that means like the consensus. That's the consensus of the scholar. But that's a point of weakness. That means nobody knows what this thing means. And you just got to go with the majority, the democratic, you know, this is what the Quran means. And so, you know, that's just, that's really a point of weakness, but they make it a point of strength. They say, oh, no, the consensus among the scholars. Well, that means that the scholars don't know what it means either. You know,
Well, if you go through the different opinions, you see there's no consensus whatsoever. I wonder, guys, it's been 2 hours and something. So, you know, we can always make this again.
Just if I could just jump in just to answer Murad, just quickly, what I would say with Muhammad, it comes from Hebrew, Mahmad, and it was first Arabicized and then biographicized would be my argument.
JC, any thoughts?
Well, I'd say my final thoughts would be that it is very clear that the standard narrative has holes in it, and it is really great to have these conversations and show many such holes one at a time.
So what I would hope is that those who are listening, you know, apologists out there, Christian apologists, would take this information, simplify it, get an AI, get the text, have it make a summary, and actually put it out there. Give it to people to use, you know, especially those who don't speak the language. Try to find ways to simplify it. We have the tools for this now. You've got all the academic information, and AI can simplify it, and you can use it, and you can start to demolish various Muslim arguments and demonstrate just the falsehood or just the poor scholarship, you know, and the inadequacies of the scholars. So that would be great. Husein, if you want to sort of, you know, talk about that, I'm sure we can find ways to assist there, because we need to take it from an academic level down to a more popular level that can be used, you know, by everyone for apologetics.
You know, it's interesting about what you're saying. I just want to say that I'm not an academic. I'm not at anywhere near the level of any of these guys, but I'm understanding what they're saying because I understand the Arabic, and the academic is bringing this thing down to the non-Arabic speakers. exposing these weaknesses, that is not just in the translation, but in the actual Arabic, that these weaknesses, that these lies, and because I'm thinking when I was a kid being taught Islam in the madrasa in the Middle East, we were being taught these lies, and the lies, and it was incorrect then. In the Arabic, it was incorrect.
Well, look, if you want to bring some of these polemics that they had back then, the things that you thought were strong, maybe we can present them here and we can deconstruct them. We can take them apart. Yeah, Odon, you're nodding. I'll give you another word there. Any thoughts you want to add?
I was just approving your proposal.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, so guys, I am going away for 2 weeks. I will be literally deep in the bush. I'm going to be very far from Wi-Fi. So yeah, I'm taking my family. We're heading off to South Africa. And yeah, so I'm going to get some fresh air and hopefully not get mugged. So yeah, so
or worse.
Say again?
Or worse.
Or worse, yeah, exactly. But I grew up there, so as the saying goes, do unto others before they do unto you. So
are you going to visit the grave of Ahmed Didat?
No, I'm not. I have better things to do.
No, he's going to visit, but he's going to do something
I'm going to dance. Yeah, we can't talk about what I'm going to do there, but there'll be a little yellow stain nearby. I'm going to water the flowers around. Moving on. Yeah. So yeah, I'll be away for 2 weeks, but I think I'm going to talk to JC tomorrow. We're going to try and set up some streams so you can stream on his channel or something, and then use my channel as well. So we'll set up some streams while I'm gone, and I'll be back. I think 17th. Yeah.
I'll be away next week. I have to do some other work.
Okay.
Yeah. So do I. So will I.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So yeah, but we'll plan something. We'll be back. But thank you very much, everyone, for this. It's been very enlightening. I don't claim to understand everything, and hopefully my input's been of some use. But it's interesting to see the whole narrative is just completely false. It's bogus from top to bottom. There is no strength. There is no solid point that they have. They just have this web of confusion and lies, and it's easily taken apart. I mean, we have Dr. Kerr to demonstrate exactly that. So hopefully we can disseminate this and have others use it, pick it up, run with it.
Okay, I'm happy I didn't bore you too much, but
no, not at all, not at all. Thank you. No, we're grateful to have you. I think everyone is very grateful, and you're doing a service. We couldn't do this without you. Otherwise I'd be talking about UFOs, and Odon would be giving me dirty looks. Just kidding. I've never spoken about UFOs, but we do have bad jokes on the channel, though. So. But Odon does give me the occasional look. He has in the past. So, but Paul, also, we're looking forward to talking about your book. That's going to be fascinating, the Jerusalem thesis. Saint Murad, of course, you've got some content. And Husein, you're welcome anytime. So yeah, guys, we shall see you all soon then.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Take care. Have a safe travels, and
yeah, looking forward to going home, and looking forward to being back as well. See you all soon. Take care, everyone. God bless.